How does that work, Sarah? Giving permission while you're driving, hands-free?
That was odd that it had a
She's
delay
probably,
with,
she's probably still trying, I would imagine.
Sarah, let us know when you're back with us. Maybe she doesn't know that she's not back with us. Or no, there.
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, got it. Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay, so let me put the agenda up. All right, it is 1 p.m. on July 6th, 2026. This is a meeting of the Land Use Review Board. I am Janet Hurley, the chair. I will ask other board members to introduce themselves one by one here. Alex,
Alex Weinhagen, good afternoon.
Kirsten,
Kirsten Sultan. Hi, everyone.
Brooke,
Brooke Dingledine, good afternoon.
and Sarah Had.
Sarah Had, good afternoon.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is agenda updates. Do board members have any updates to the agenda to offer? See a few shaking heads. And another one. Okay. Let's move on to opportunity for public comment. I do not see any public present, so we will come back to that before the end of the meeting, if any public join us. And now we will move on to minutes approval. We had several minutes augmentations and revisions that were offered. I'm pretty much good with most of them. I think, however, that Kirsten and I had some competing revisions to one particular couple of sentences, I think.
Oh,
Um,
guess I had
the-
not realized what I'd offered was competing
I
with
think, let me-
your edits.
I think it was the one about the interim housing guidance, or no, maybe not, because maybe your edits were about the regional plan guidance. That's right. So no, I think all of the revisions that were offered were not in conflict, and I'm okay with all of them. So Brooke offered a revision in which she clarified an important point that she made during the Two Rivers meeting on the 26th. And Kirsten offered several revisions to clarify items under, I think, both sets of minutes, right, Kirsten?
Yes.
And I offered some revisions to both sets of minutes as well. So if board members are good with those revisions to the draft minutes, I would entertain a motion to accept each of the sets of minutes one at a time here.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the June 26 meeting minutes as revised.
Thank you, Alex.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kirsten. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi, Kirsten.
And that is 4 board members. So I should have said, let's do a roll call vote. Janet Hurley, aye. Kirsten,
Kirsten Sultan, aye.
Alex,
Alex Weinhagen, aye.
Brooke,
Brooke Dingledine, aye.
and Sarah.
For Friday, the 26th, I'll abstain as I was not there.
Thank you. Okay, so the minutes of the 26th are adopted. And what about the minutes of the 29th, meeting of the 29th of June?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as revised.
Thank you, Alex.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brooke. Janet Hurley, I vote aye. Alex,
Alex Weinhagen, aye.
Kirsten,
Kirsten Sultan, aye.
Brooke,
Brooke Dingledine, aye.
Sarah Had.
Sarah Had, aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Those minutes are adopted. All right, next on the agenda is a discussion of budget carry forward. So we find ourselves in a position of having some money to carry forward, primarily due to vacancy savings, primarily for lawyers, one after the other, and a little bit for our board technical assistance. So we need to, if we want to, come up with a plan to present to the administration, finance and management division by mid-July. And a couple of ideas were thrown out there by board members, and I would like to discuss those. So we had the idea that maybe this could pay for some public relations work, and that could be in conjunction with some community engagement work that we need to do to fulfill our EJ law responsibilities. Another idea is to retain some of that vacancy savings to cover any increase that the district coordinators may get from the submission of their RFR. So that we have that money in hand when and if they get an increase in step. So other ideas were some staff training monies around issues. What other ideas do people want to discuss here today? Brooke?
In two of the reports that under Act 181 that we were required to submit to the legislature, we have in both of those consistently identified the need for, and that the program and other permitting programs would benefit by the reinstitution of a permit specialist. In our appeals report, as well as our wood products manufacturing report, it was specifically called out, and unfortunately, it didn't get a lot of traction, primarily because of the lack of funding to hire yet a new person or persons to staff such an office. And the idea was to provide someone who could meet with applicants, neighbors, towns, to help facilitate their understanding and involve engagement in Act 250, but A&R, the PUC are also covered agencies for environmental justice requirements. And so I thought that this might be an ideal moment, if we have the funds, to be able to create a pilot project position. I understand that these funds must be used on a one-time, one-year basis. But I feel like the notion of public engagement, public relations, there's nothing wrong with that. It would be beneficial, but I feel like this is really putting our money where our mouth is and walking the walk of creating assistance for the public, not just trying to engage with them. And the idea was also like an ombudsperson kind of office, so that you're not just a traffic cop, but you're able to provide support to people that want to engage, who don't have the ability to expend funds, hiring a lawyer, or being able to understand the complexities of when and how you must engage in the process in order to be heard at a hearing or to have your interests acknowledged and acted upon in these permitting processes. So that was an idea I came up with over the weekend and thought about it some last week. And so I know this is a new option to consider, and I know we're on a short timeline here, but I really feel that since it's been identified consistently And I think there's been an awful lot of agreement about that, that this is something that we should seriously consider.
Thank you, Brooke. I think it's a good idea. I wonder if it should be given more attention as part of our community engagement plan, and that we could plan, a more permanent position that would, function that way through our community engagement plan. But that's just my off the top of my head thought. Alex, go ahead.
So my recollection of the permit specialist position is that they advise the public on all manner of state permits. Agency of Natural Resources being the key agency in that regard, as they issue a great many permits. I think that if we're going to pursue this idea, we need to do it collaboratively with at least the Agency of Natural Resources, and that it probably makes sense for this position to be housed within their agency, the way it was when the permit specialists existed in the past. So, I'd rather pursue this at a later date in coordination with the Agency of Natural Resources and as a part of just the normal year-to-year budgeting process. I get the idea of a pilot program and using carry forward funds for a one-time pilot. But I think it would be better to have A&R lead this effort and us support, and I'm not sure that a one-year pilot is the way to go.
Any other thoughts? Kirsten?
So I think it's a great idea. I think one of the challenges would be the limited duration of funding, in that it's going to take a while for someone to get up to speed and fully versed in all the, array of state permits, so as to be able to provide, meaningful outreach to, whether it's applicants and the way the permit specialists formally would work closely as a resource, which was great. Or, other kind of ombuds role. I guess, yeah, I agree with what Alex just said, and that it was, collaborative with other state agencies, in particular A&R. So maybe, I know we have to have, if we want to make a plan for use of some of these funds, we're sort of on a short time frame here, but maybe we could look into this between now and next week. I've thought about the sort of option of engaging a PR professional, and I just don't think, I think the state has already earmarked money for the council to develop a plan for public outreach. And I just don't, I think that there's other better use of funds, and another option remains to just return the money to the general fund.
Kirsten, what council are you referring to?
The council that oversees the conservation districts, that's going to be contracting for a public engagement plan, as I understand it, as
No,
part of
no, they're going to be contracting with the legislature to do public engagement about how to protect critical natural resources. So they're going to be, they've been contracted to do a particular engagement effort on that topic only.
Yeah, I understand. Well, and actually, as I think I understand it, it's not the engagement in of itself, it's developing a plan for how the
Yes.
engagement can occur. So
Yes.
the implementation of it would also remain to be seen.
Right, but it's separate from our program. It's not about our
Yeah.
program at all, so.
Yeah. And I think as far as like our obligations to meet anticipated salaries corresponding to classification of all of our positions, I maybe this is like a Rachel kind of overview, but as I understand it, it's all based on the grades and steps, and if some of that is in flux going up or down, I mean, I don't know how we can budget based on the currently unknown, right? So and it's not just a particular group of employees that's currently in play. So I guess I would exercise caution with that too. But I see Pete's wanting to jump in.
Go ahead, Pete.
Oops, sorry, I just had to click agree again there. Yeah, a couple of quick thoughts going in reverse order there. There is the Pay Act is another way that we kind of true up salaries and things. There's a provision for ongoing RFRs as well. Depending on how much that would change, there's a legislative process that corresponds with that too. So just to keep that in mind. In terms of the
Pete, can I ask about that?
Sure.
Pay Act doesn't necessarily deal with making up for an RFR that was submitted nearly a year ago. It's about changes in other costs, not RFR costs. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I thought it could include something such as an RFR, but something we
I
can
don't know
we
that
can
that's true,
dig
but
into and
yeah, something we should
make
find
sure
out.
we
Okay.
understand. But I guess
Yeah.
the bottom line there is there may be other machinations that would address that type of pay difference or need. The other quick thought in terms of the environmental assistance program, I think that's great. I like the idea of some sort of pilot. I do agree with the concept in terms of making sure that we're coordinating with other agencies, et cetera. And I'll just on that front, I'll just note that the Agency of Natural Resources has been reviewing their environmental assistance program and the permit specialist specifically. We reached out several months ago about kind of with the status of that. And they were not at a point where they kind of knew where they were going necessarily or ready to share, but we did say that we would like to be collaborative in that process, kind of moving forward, so that there is sort of a piece that's happening there already.
They are retiring their online permit specialist kind of
Yeah, the Permit
operation.
Navigator program.
Permit Navigator,
Yes.
yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah,
Is
so
that-
I'm happy to, again, it's been a few months. I'm happy to reach out again and just see kind of where they're at with that. So that we're coordinated on that, depending on kind of where you guys want to go with the rest of this.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and
Alex?
Janet, let me just respond
Go
if I
ahead,
could,
Brooke. Yeah.
just to this one thing. Yeah, and the reason why, my frustration is sort of like, oh, it's somebody else's problem, or it should come out from somebody else's budget. And the problem is that the burden falls on our district coordinators because they're the only humans that the public interacts with. There's nobody like that at the PUC, and there's nobody like that at A&R. And so that's why I thought maybe this could kickstart getting that position into, back. And then after the pilot, people might be more agreeable to chipping in for it, if you will. That's why I was trying to pursue
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Thanks. Alex?
Oh, yeah, a couple points. So I hear what you're saying, Brooke. I still think it makes more sense to have this discussion as a part of the regular budget development process and do it collaboratively with A&R. I think Pearson's point was one I hadn't thought of that I think is true. Logistically, this is carry forward for the fiscal year that we are already in right now. So the time it would take to create this position and hire it and then have it actually do something is too short. There's not enough time in this fiscal year to do this effectively, even if we wanted to, which I don't. I'd like to do this more collaboratively with A&R in the hopes of having this be a permanent addition, not a 1 year or a half year or 3 months sort of an experiment. With regard to the Pay Act, my understanding is that the carry forward procedure favors proposals that carry forward money to help cover the Pay Act. I think it's one of two sort of pieces that that Rachel helped outline as being like one-time funds or Pay Act funds. So I think it makes sense if it can work to put money in the carry forward for Pay Act and or anticipated or potential RFR costs that are not in our budget that could accrue. I would like Rachel to give us a ballpark estimate of what the RFR would result in if that was ultimately successful. And this specifically is a district coordinator's RFR, so it's not all of our staff. It's just that one group of our staff, very important group of our staff. So I think it makes sense to maybe put that in the mix, but I'd like to see a ballpark cost estimate so we know what else we have to work with for other kinds of carry forward proposals if we're going to make any. I believe, as Rachel explained it, we actually have several that are on the table, right? We have $960,000 of carry forward for our scanning effort. That's non-negotiable. Like, we will apply for that because it's a multi-year effort, and that like we're not going to change our minds on that. So we're not
Right.
really talking about that. There's $61,000 remaining for carry forward in the digital infrastructure project to help finalize whatever else we need to do with the regional plan. Application database and Criterion 8C mapping and the like. To me, that seems sort of sacrosanct. I'd like to hold that harmless and carry that forward for those projects. And it's this 275,000 approximately that is additional carry forward that I think we're really talking about ideas for. And so I'm happy to not use this to hire a public relations expert that can help us with public relations. Kirsten, if that's your preference, we can try to do that as a part of our regular budget request. But just to be blunt about it, this program has a reputation problem in this state, and we need to do something about that. We need to provide more information to Vermonters so they understand the good that Act 250 does, that all of our staff is constantly working on, and the good that we bring to development review of larger projects across the state. That sort of storytelling and factual information, I just don't think is getting out there. And I think that the reaction that a lot of Vermonters had to the modernization effort, particularly Tier 3 and the road rule and all that, was indicative of an underlying concern and sort of maybe misunderstanding of what Act 250 does and doesn't do in this state over the last 55 years. So at some point, I just want us to get to that. Like, I think we need to provide facts. We need to provide a different narrative than some of what is being promulgated around the state about what this program means and the good that it is doing. So that's what I was thinking we could use some of the carry forward for, is a 1 year hire a public relations expert to come and coach us and then actually do some media buys to get our message out, both about the work we're doing now on modernization efforts that are still ongoing, but maybe more importantly, just what is Act 250 and what is the good that it has wrought in this state and will continue to do in this state going forward.
Just to respond to Alex's request to get more detail from Rachel about costs for covering any potential increase for the district coordinators due to the class RFR, I think Rachel put some numbers out there in, somewhere in the 100,000 something range. Pete, do you have that number?
Yeah, I do. I just was pulling that up too. So for a pay grade 29, it'd be about 125K. For pay
Uh-huh.
grade 30, it'd be 251. Again, rough things. The other thing she mentioned there, that just to follow up from our question before too, is that we could also seek an additional appropriation under the Budget Adjustment Act or the Pay Act for the RFR increase.
Okay, thank you. Sarah?
So, some fantastic ideas so far. And Brooke, thank you. That's an excellent idea, taking bull by the horns. I think a lot of what I was going to say has already been said in terms of perhaps not now and coordinate. Coming back to what to do with this, I believe the requirements are to try and create a savings long term. So with carry forward, it's prioritized in terms of what can we do with money now to try and save money long term. And I do think that there is merit in Alex's idea of some sort of PR or consultant, because I think that also gets to the issue that Brooke brought up in terms of the workload of our coordinators. I think an outside person that can come in and talk to us about how to communicate with the public better, more simple language, more clear language. I think these are all things that are beneficial to the permitting process and could yield long-term savings and economic benefits for the state of Vermont. So I do feel like that is a priority. I think the RFR could also help protect against unbudgeted bump that we would need to accommodate. So I think those two ideas just are perhaps at the top of my order so far. But Brooke, excellent idea. I'd love to see that come up perhaps at another time when it's more ripe and can be coordinated. So, but fantastic idea.
Brooke?
I could not disagree with Alex more so on this issue of hiring a public relations expert to improve how people view Act 250. I think that would be a horrific waste of public funds. And I think it would have the opposite effect in terms of how people would perceive Act 250 to be running ads. We need to focus, in my opinion, on our program, improving it to the extent that we can, focusing on the work, because it is the work that will speak for itself. And I'm not saying that we don't need to do an engagement plan and an EJ engagement plan and all that, but there are 5 board members who are working full-time right now. And I do not see, and I think at a previous meeting some time ago, maybe even a year ago, I think that we heard from Annette Smith, who had seen previous public relations efforts of bringing in outside people. And I believe that she indicated that it was all for naught, did not improve the programs that she saw it attached to. I could not feel more strongly about this. I do not believe that we need to learn how to speak to the public. I think that we have a website. We need to improve it, make it easier to access the information. And we certainly can engage with communities. We have been very responsive when towns have asked us to come and talk about Act 181 or Act 250. And I think, Alex, you've been wonderful in that regard. I just really strongly feel it would be a waste of our resources. I think that helping people to engage with the program is much more important. And, you know, we have spread statistics around. We have talked about the fact that we have very few denials, 1 every year or 2. And it is often the complaint is that many people don't come to Act 250 because they are concerned, they won't build, all of that. That's what part of Act 181 is, the tier work that we're working on for, tier 1As and tier 1Bs. And I think that that focus on the work is where we need to put our resources, because that will ultimately change people's opinion or not. But we need to be able to have the best running mechanism here for permitting so that it is not perceived as an impediment to building homes, or the larger commercial ventures that need to be built. So I will not be supportive of that, but I'm one on a board, so that's how strongly I
So-
feel about it.
So Brooke, I think it sounds like you most object to the idea of hiring a public relations firm to do ads, which I don't think is what Alex had envisioned. I think we need a plan of engagement that is broader than just EJ engagement. But Alex, do you want to respond to that? Maybe I'm misinterpreting you and that is what you were suggesting.
I think there's a couple different ways that, you know, we can slice this with regard to community engagement. So I'm one member of a board too, Brooke. I'm happy to bend and adjust the, you know, what we want to do based on consensus, rather than just saying nope or yeah, you know, my way or not, no way. But I will tell you that we are required to come up with a community engagement plan for environmental justice, the EJ law. And it seems like we could use some help with that. And this could be potentially something that could dovetail into that. And also, we are doing the work that you mentioned, and I'm all about that. I want to get to the real work of modernizing our program and making it be as efficient as possible. But two things. One, we're probably going to be doing a fair amount of change in order to make that process happen. And having an idea of how we're going to communicate that change to Vermonters, I think is a really important part of doing that work. And if we allow the narrative to be determined by others about the work we are doing on that front, then I think we're doing our program and the state a disservice. And I think that can very easily happen if we are not focused and nimble when it comes to outreach and public relations. Yeah, so there's that. And yeah, at the other time, I'm just going to tell you, I've been involved in development review for a long time at the municipal level prior to coming here. And it's very easy to tell negative stories about regulations that determine what can happen or how it happens with regard to land use. That's why zoning administrators at the municipal level are generally not very popular, because they have to say no, and sometimes they have to say, you know, you have to do this with a review that takes time and might include some conditions. And so the narrative behind, you know, what development review means to Vermont and what value it provides is not as simple as having a well-functioning process. It's also about being a part of explaining how that process works. And an annual report to the legislature once a year, that's not enough. Like, I think we need to be doing more. So I saw this as an opportunity to do a couple of different things, but part of it was that. And like I said, I hear what you're saying, and Kirsten too. And if this is a larger discussion, needs to happen over a longer period of time as a part of our regular budget discussions, happy to, wait. And perhaps this carry forward could be taken off the table or tailored more to what Janet's talking about in terms of our required development of the community engagement plan for environmental justice purposes.
Sarah?
So I hear some commonalities that I just want to highlight, which is, I think, Brooke, yes, absolutely, our website does need a redo, but I think to the community engagement, the environmental justice, a lot of what we're supposed to be doing at the state level is supposed to be clear and accessible to a common person using common terms, and it is not. I think community engagement would be very good for us to be able to listen and adjust. And unlike previous efforts, I think you have a board that is really willing to change things right now and consider things. And so I think that's, you know, you can do the same, but the implementation is always where the rubber meets the road. And I think if we can clear up how we communicate with the public, and also do a listening session. I think what we heard were people are fed up with different parts. I think the legislatures invested some money in doing some listening. I think it would be wise for us to do that as well and make adjustments and get a critique from the outside of how we can better communicate with the public and be responsive. So I see those as all being benefits to community engagement and PR. And that's, I think, why I'm sort of behind that idea as being important for the time being. And I think it does get at all the goals I've heard so far. It's just a matter of how it would be written in terms of what we want. And so I think that probably is going to be a future time and not necessarily right now. I think now is just asking for the money to be able to do this. Thanks.
So we have 4 minutes left on this agenda item. Kirsten, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw another concept on the table for board members to think about, and maybe ask Pete to consider, where we may have benefit in engaging some technical experts. So, for example, to help us develop guidance concerning noise emissions or lighting or something else of a technical nature, that it would be helpful for us to have a resource who can, bring together the different, existing precedent and inform, the current state of that science, whatever it is.
Yeah, that is something that Pete brought up specifically, Kirsten, last
Oh,
week.
he had,
yeah,
apology if
I
I
don't-
overlooked
I
that,
don't know
but
if he did in our administrative meeting, maybe,
yeah,
but Pete, do you want to expound on that for Kirsten?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. And those were two areas that we were sort of thinking about was noise experts and lighting. Like it's one thing where you could have somebody that could help train folks to understand how that works, and it could help they could help navigate policy development in those, and then help with kind of the back end of policy development.
And also communicating that out to the public, to potential
Yeah,
applicants.
how to do it. So some of those can get a little bit technical, and so it's nice to have somebody that really knows it and can help communicate that out. Yep, exactly.
Okay, Brooke.
I have some thoughts about it, but I know we're running short on time, so I'll hold my comments till later. But one thing I wanted to notice was that Annette Smith has signed on to this meeting. She did not hear the content when I was speaking about my misgivings about hiring a consultant for public relations, but I know in the past, I'm almost positive she spoke to us about that, and was wondering if we could give her a moment at the end of our conversation to give any thoughts that she has about hiring folks or doing advertising in this regard.
I'd like to hear from Alex.
So my question, Pete, was regarding bringing somebody in for technical assistance on noise or lighting or whatever. Is that bubbling up from the coordinators and the work that they're doing, or is it just something that has been observed over many years that these are topics that have some technical pieces? Like, that's the question.
Yeah, so it has been bubbling up over the years for sure, but I also did a quick email blast to my folks, and technical assistance on, kind of technical input was something that did come up. And believe lighting maybe was one of the examples there. So, but we can certainly pull them more explicitly and say, hey, we're thinking about this, some technical assistance. What areas are you finding would be most helpful? Something like that.
That I was getting
Okay,
at,
so-
that I think it's a good idea if it could be fleshed out, and if it's something that would actually help our coordinators and help the process be more efficient, then it would meet the goals of the carry forward and our program goals.
Yep.
Thanks. So it is 1:40, and I'm gonna go back to opportunity for public comments on non-agenda items. And if you have comment and that on non-agenda items and want to add something about public relations, that's fine. Go right ahead.
So I would like to comment on the public relations and the noise and lighting experts. I have participated in the Act 59 outreach meetings, the Clean Heat Standard Technical Advisory Group outreach meetings, the Climate Council's work. I have to say, overall, and there have been different firms hired. They've all been really bad at what they do. They don't understand the issues. These are very complicated issues, and I would say Act 250 shares a lot of that. It's been embarrassing. So I really caution you about outsourcing something that I think is better done in-house, because it's been really insulting and frustrating to me to see the money spent on public outreach that has been so poorly done. And I could be more specific, but I'll move on. I have more experience than I would ever want with noise issues because of wind turbines, and there was an investigation at the Public Utility Commission that resulted in rulemaking, and it was very extensive. And I think if you're looking to educate your coordinators and you don't have to put out an RFP, the one person who I think could do the best job and is in Vermont is Les Blomberg of No Noise. He's regularly gone to by media, and he understands the whole host of things. He also is sometimes an expert in Act 250 cases, but there are a lot of noise experts who work for industry who you do not get an honest view of from. And noise is a complicated issue. It involves not just audible decibels, but low frequency noise and infrasound. That surfaced a little bit over the data center bill, where actually infrasound is a big issue with them. And VPIRG spoke up and said, oh, we don't want anything in the legislation because that would hurt the wind issue. And in fact, infrasound and low frequency noise are the bigger complaints about wind energy. So I think it's great to get some expertise. The experts that I was working with, 2 of them have died. One of them is getting older. I would have to go out and look to try and find someone that I felt I had confidence in, but I do have confidence in Les Blomberg's ability to explain and educate about noise. And then on lighting, I will say that's a great idea. I don't know who you'd hire, but when I was on the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, that was one of the big complaints that came up. I lived just south of Tinmouth, but in Tinmouth, you see the light just dominating the sky from Rutland. People in Shrewsbury complained about it. Everyone wants the lighting to be face, down and minimized and get rid of all of this light pollution that we've got from our cities. So I applaud that, and I wish you luck finding someone. I don't think that's as controversial or difficult. So thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you. So we will take this up again, both at our administrative meeting, but also at our next board meeting, I think. So let's move on to item F, discussion of appeals, enforcement, and attorney-client communications. Do we have a motion? Brooke,
I should have had it up, but I don't have my script. I would move that the board convene an executive session to discuss enforcement actions, litigation, and other matters requiring attorney-client privileged communications, the premature public knowledge of which would prejudice the board, and move that we convene to executive session.
Thank you, Brooke. It's
I'll
Kirsten.
second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say, well, let me do a roll call. This is Janet Hurley. I vote aye on that motion. Brooke,
Brooke Dingeldine, aye.
Alex,
Alex Whitehagen, aye.
Kirsten,
Kirsten Sultan, I.
and Sarah.
Sarah had, aye.
Okay, so that is unanimous. The board will enter executive session to discuss enforcement docket numbers and also other attorney-client communications. We will report back out to this meeting as soon as we conclude the executive session. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon. Okay. Wait for Kirsten. Okay, Kirsten's back. And Sarah, are you hearing us?
Yes.
Okay, so the board is returned. Brooke, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention when I came back from this meeting, I had to leave executive session early because I was recused from a matter. But when I returned, we had failed to share our hold screen. So I shared it, but for the majority of the time that we were gone, I think we just had a blank screen, you know. We did not have that posted, just to let anybody know who's listening or watching now that we have been in an executive session.
Okay,
And so that was all.
And just to be clear, I did share that hold screen. And so I'm not sure why it wasn't displaying when you returned, Brooke, but it was shared for the duration of the executive session, at least on my screen.
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh,
Not
Okay.
sure how.
Catherine.
Hi, yes, I wanted to confirm that I saw the whole screen as well. Session.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe it was a snafu on my end then.
Okay,
'Cause
thanks
I
for
was
bringing it
seeing-
up, Brooke. We'll keep an eye on that going forward. Okay, so the board is back from executive session. We did have a long conversation about our interim housing guidance. We are still not quite ready to adopt revisions. We expect to revisit that next week again. And then we discussed several enforcement cases, one of which Brooke was recused from. We have nothing to report out on that one, but we do have motions to make on the rest. So Brooke, I believe you have one, or Alex, you have the first one maybe?
I think mine was the first one, at least in the
Okay.
order in which we discussed it during the
Okay.
executive session. So
Yes,
yes, I would like to move that we authorize the enforcement team to pursue an administrative order citing the same compliance and directives and impose penalties as outlined in the proposed assurance of discontinuance on enforcement matter 2021_88. The specific portions of the AOD, including a directive to file the requisite land use permit amendment, to pay a $3,000 civil penalty, and to reimburse the Land Use Review Board $316.36 in enforcement costs.
thank you, Alex. Kirsten?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kirsten. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. I'm Janet Hurley. I vote aye on that motion. Alex, your vote?
Alex Weinhagen, I vote aye.
Kirsten, your vote?
Kirsten Sultan, I.
Brooke, your vote?
Brooke Dingle-Dean, aye.
And Sarah?
Sarah
Appearing
Had,
in
aye.
video. Thank you. That was unanimous. So I think Kirsten, you have one to make, oh no, Brooke, sorry, it was Brooke.
I would move to authorize enforcement to pursue an assurance of discontinuance against the respondent in enforcement case number 2024_081.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Alex. Any further discussion? Okay, my name is Janet Hurley. I am voting aye. Brooke,
Brooke Dingle-Dean votes aye.
Alex,
Alex Weinhagen, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Had, aye.
and Kirsten.
Kirsten Sultan, I.
That is also unanimous. And the next case I have a motion for, and that is to move to authorize enforcement to revisit the proposed assurance of discontinuance, which was directed to the respondent, which directed the respondent to, 1, obtain an after-the-fact land use permit, and 2, pay a $2,000 civil penalty along with a $1,322 $1,322.96 fee to recoup LURB its enforcement costs.
And that is on enforcement item
sorry.
2024_084, yes?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Alex, for pointing out that very important detail. Yes, it is. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you. I'm Janet Hurley. I vote aye. Alex?
Alex Weinhagen, aye.
Kirsten? Kirsten, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Kirsten Sultan, I.
And Brooke?
Brooke Tingle Jean, aye.
And Sarah?
Sarah had I.
Thank you.
And
The
then,
next one is 2025-005.
so I have a motion in that matter. With respect to enforcement case 2025-005, I move to authorize enforcement to transmit a proposed assurance of discontinuance, directing the respondent to pay a $3,000 civil penalty and $998.46 for enforcement cost reimbursement.
Thank
I'll
you.
Second.
Thank you, Brooke. I'm Janet Hurley. I vote aye on that motion. Kirsten?
Kirsten Sultan, I.
Brooke?
Brooke Tingle Jean, aye.
Sarah?
Sarah had I.
And Alex?
Alex Weinhagen, aye.
Thank you. That is unanimous. That motion is adopted, passed. And that, I believe, is all we have. Just going to ask one last time whether there are any public comments on any matters that are before this board. We have one member of the public, looks like still with us. Annette, do you have any comments before we disband?
Sorry, I don't, I turned the sound off on my computer, my microphone, so that's why it takes me a while, so no.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm glad I was able to comment earlier. I guess I will say, following up on that, I'm following what's going on with the Rural Vermont Rising folks, and I think it's a really good idea to do things like issuing press releases that promote the good things that you're doing, but hiring and spending money on outside things to promote what you're doing is likely to result in a backlash. So I think press releases are very effective. Vermont Business Magazine picks them up right away. They get out to a wide audience, and talking about the good things you're doing. You guys have the ability to write that stuff up yourselves, and you don't need to involve people who don't have as much familiarity with your program as you do. Okay, happy summer.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Alex.
I'll second.
Oh, Sarah got it. Okay, well, we're all on video here. I think we can do it. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Brooke, did you say aye?
Aye.
Okay, we're all in agreement that we are going to adjourn. So thank you very much, everybody. See you soon.